Welcome to another vlog. This week's topic is service animals, and I wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences getting my service dogs, Tafia and Douce. When I was about 11 years old, I started looking into the possibility of getting a service dog to help me. This was around the time that, I started using a wheelchair and really had trouble um, doing a lot of day-to-day tasks. And around this time, we found out about this organization called the Mira Foundation. They're a organization based in Quebec that provides service animals and guide dogs to people free of charge. So we talked to the representatives from the organization and learned a bit about what they did, and we submitted our application. A few months later, we heard back and found out that I had been accepted into the program to get a dog. So in the summer of 2004, I traveled to Quebec with my father to the Mira Foundation's headquarters, which are located in a small town called Saint Madeleine. It's a very nice facility. They have all the amenities that you need to live comfortably, but obviously you're not there to be on vacation. You're there to get a service dog. So you spend most of your days training with the dogs, which is tiring, but it's worth it. So when I went to get Tafia, the training program was about 2 weeks. The first week was spent pairing you with your dog and teaching you the basic commands, and then the second week was getting the dog used to working with you and being in public. So the first few days, they tried us out with a whole bunch of different dogs and paired us up with the dogs they thought worked best with us. Once we were paired up, we spent the rest of the week learning the basic commands and learning how to care for our dog. After the first week was over, we spent the second week, we went to some public venues, malls and grocery stores and parks and places like that, and trained with the dogs to help the dogs get used to working with us and us working with the dog, and also to get the dog used to being in public spaces, because service animals need to be able to deal with situations that would otherwise cause anxiety, so like being in crowds and things like that. At the end of the 2 weeks, you graduate and you bring the dog home. So I was about 12 years old when I brought my service dog, Tafia, home. And this was right around the time that I was going into junior high, so it was definitely a learning experience. And I had Tafia for 8 years. Unfortunately, she got sick, and we had to put her down, which was very difficult since I'd been with her for so long. But it was a good experience. So I went about a year without a service dog, and then in 2013 I started the process of getting another service dog. So I reapplied to the Mira Foundation. Now, normally the waiting list for a service dog is 3 years, but because I already had a service dog through the organization, and I guess the belief was that I relied on a service dog, they accepted me into the program right away and helped me get my second dog. So I traveled back to Quebec with my father. Um, it was the same facility with the same amenities and pretty much the same process to get the dog. The biggest difference was that the training course was extended to 3 weeks. So again, the first few days was pairing you with the dog, and then the first week was about getting used to the commands and taking care of your dog. And then the rest of the session was taking the dogs out in public and getting used to working with the dogs and getting the dogs used to being in public settings. When I got Tafia, they originally only taught her the basic commands, and then I had to bring her back a year later for additional training, because the first year was about bonding. But when I got Douce, when I brought her home, she was already trained to do everything. The first year was still about bonding, but she was already trained to do everything. So a few weeks later, in 2013, I brought Douce home, and I've had Douce for about 4 years. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that my service dogs do for me, because I'm sure a lot of you are wondering. So Douce is trained to do 4 things. She can pick up items that I drop. She can push wheelchair buttons. She can open doors, specifically doors that have handles on them, and she can also take off my jacket. Um, those are the things that Deuce and Tafia were specifically trained to do. The Mira Foundation also trains dogs to help roll people in bed, um, and to pull wheelchairs and to do things like that. They also train guide dogs for the blind. That's the same facility, but it's in a different building. And they train dogs for people who are autistic, and they also breed their own dogs. And that's just what the Mira Foundation does. There's a lot of other organizations. The Lions Foundation gives them out, and a lot of other organizations give out service animals. Some organizations you have to pay to get a service animal from. Some organizations, like the Mira Foundation, where I got my dogs, are non-profit. So that's basically the process of getting a service dog. I talk a lot more about service animals, not just service dogs, but service animals in general in this week's Disability Series video. So I encourage you to check that out on Thursday. Thanks for watching, and see you on Thursday.